what we were doing was presenting this new phenomena of behavior and asking people to engage with us in a conversation of what it was about, whether we make art about it and stuff like that. And because I was doing that, whenever people would miss the point, I think that I got into the habit of being like, well, my track record speaks for itself, or this is art, or context, blah, 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 blah. But what I realized that I was actually getting myself into, and I've heard you use this sentence before, is a kind of a series of moments of context collapse, where people became genuinely unaware of what I was lampooning, what I was unironically platforming, what I was supporting and what I wasn't. So I've stopped doing that as much anymore. I think that, there's a certain section of my fans that are very like me, that are very interested in this thing, that like the kind of shit posty thing, because like me and you, they like taking silly things seriously, which is, I think that we take that idea very, very seriously. But for a lot of people, what I realized is that I don't want one of my posts or something that I say or do to alienate some young person who takes their affiliation with a community, say it's like even being into the 1975, like seriously. I think that I've grown to have a bit more responsibility with the way that I talk about these kind of things.
This is precisely the question, is what are the threshold or the parameters of responsibility with a large audience, right? And I'm personally conflicted about this. This is maybe something we can explore a little bit more deeply. But just to give the citations here, so context collapse is a term that was coined by Dana Boyd, who was the founder of Data and Society, which is a think tank that specializes in social media. It is also sometimes analogized to Poe's Law, which was a rule that emerged on 4chan. But basically anything that is said in jest or in irony on the internet, given to a scale of like millions and millions of people, someone in there is going to take it 100% seriously.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of the media theory behind why we need to have certain levels of individual responsibility in what we post.
Yes.
Now, the flip side of that, my concern is that when we enforce those things too heavily, and we're saying that people are not able to deal or interpret or should not be exposed to complicated art, we're saying that most people are too stupid to get involved with art, right? And that's actually a profoundly anti-democratic thing, that they're too dumb to make up their own minds. If you extrapolate that out a bit further, it's like, well, they can't have aesthetic preferences, they can't choose what art and culture they like to participate in. Should they be able to vote? There's like really weird downstream implications when you start to say that most people are too stupid to make up their own minds. So I'm willing to concede that there are certain parameters. I behave a lot more better on social media now. Before I would share all sorts of like extreme material. I literally wrote a book about it. I'm willing to have a long form conversation. I find what is maybe similar to your experience, what really restricts the kind of like outrageous posting that I would do before is that now I'm part of an organization, I'm part of a community, right? And so I think about how my personal post is going to affect the career of like a 24-year-old BFA student who they put their work onto Do Not Research, and this is like, the thing that they get up in the morning to do, they really care about that art. And it's like, I would hate for my shit post to be misinterpreted and then negatively affect this kid who's just like aspiring to get his foot in the door for some creative career.
For sure.
That's really what
I have
holds me
the
back
same
now.
thing. Like I ran into a series of issues with basically, I am an artist first, and I also creatively run my record label.
Right.
So I'm not a boss, but I'm a figurehead for a lot of other artists. Yeah. Now, what conflicts me is I don't want my right to express myself exactly how I want to negatively impact on those people that I'm genuinely trying to empower.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's difficult being like different artists and being disparate and all trying to kind of operate under the same, I don't want to call it like a moral framework, but I don't know how you would describe it, a kind of a way of behaving that adheres to a 20-year-old girl or a 35-year-old man that's been doing something else. So one of the challenges for me is doing something like a show at the Garden.
Right.
That people leave saying, wow, that was a really, really interesting music show.
And you did this piece of performance art at the Garden during your live show.
We did it at some of the biggest kind of venues in the world. The energy in those rooms was electric, because I think people, we'll get into the cancellation of the future, but I think that when people go to environments and they experience something that is even in a small way new, it's very exciting. And I think that I just wanted to do something that felt a bit more reflective of what media is like now. Do you know what I mean? And how it makes you feel. It's difficult to kind of explain the show, but one of the things that I had to become aware of is that we're like quite a big band.
Right.
And there's what I'm interested in. One of the things that I think that is important for me is to take more academic ideas from my peers or my friends, like you or Troemel or whoever it was, and kind of present them in an understandable and kind of appropriate way within pop music. So, you know, the reason that we didn't want to do a show at a gallery or something like that is not just because of our resentment for institutions now and art galleries, but also is because I wanted to do it in an environment that had a large audience and kind of was, as much as I could make high or art with a broad appeal, you know, because it's actually ironic that as long as there's groups of people like me thinking the same way, you've kind of got more chance now of going to a rock show and experiencing a real piece of art than you do going to a museum.
Yeah.